Hello everybody, welcome back to Storytime Sunday. So today I'm actually sharing Connor's birth story slash my pregnancy story with you guys in regards to him. Part of this does have to do with like Lacey's birth story, so I will link that up in the iCard. If you have not seen it yet, make sure to go back and watch that because that'll make a little bit more sense to you. But we found out that we were pregnant with Connor in February 2012, and then he was born November 28th, 2012. So originally they flagged me as high risk because of Lacey. We weren't sure if I was gonna have another preemie baby or what. Also, if you hear like a chopping noise, my husband is cutting up watermelon in the kitchen, so sorry about that. But I'm also trying to film in the middle of the day in my dining room instead of at 10 o'clock at night when my kids are in bed in my bedroom. So bear with me if there's extra noise. So because I was high risk with Lacey and I had her so early, they wanted to start me on progesterone injections, progesterone shots, I believe is what it's called. So basically I think that just kind of slows down your pregnancy. Like it makes sure that you don't go into labor early. I don't remember how many weeks I was when they started that. But I remember it was like between halfway in on my butt cheek and then like my hip. It was somewhere in there that the shot went. And I think I only had maybe 4 or 5 of them or something because I was like, I don't think, you know, he's gonna be early. Like that might have been a fluke because they still never completely knew why my mucus plug came out so early or like what exactly happened. They gave me the shots like just in case, but I didn't continue it through my entire pregnancy like I was supposed to, you know what I mean? But that was fine. I don't remember really having any like morning sickness or anything like that. I was never really nauseous or anything. And I don't remember if I had any cravings or what they were. So I feel like it was a pretty normal pregnancy. There wasn't a lot that happened, nothing crazy that we can remember or anything like that. But it kind of gets crazy like when he was born. He was born at 40 weeks and 1 day. Leading up to that, I think I stopped working maybe 2 weeks before he was born or something, and I was working at Whataburger at the time as a manager or team leader, I don't remember. And so I was on my feet a lot and like walking around, and I was trying not to lift heavy things or lift my hands up over my head, even though I had to do that quite a bit with like putting away boxes and even like restocking cups and stuff like that that wasn't necessarily heavy, but I still had to put my arms up a lot. And I don't know if it's like an old wives' tale or whatever, but I was told that you should not like raise your hands up over your head, like extend your arms up, because that like moves the umbilical cord and it could potentially wrap around their neck or something like that. So I'm not sure if that's true, but I tried to not raise my arms a bunch with like all of my pregnancies just in case. When I went into labor, I'm not sure when I went into labor or when my water broke rather. Archer. My cat is playing with a ball over there. So I had taken a shower before laying down for bed at like 11 o'clock at night, maybe 10:30 or something like that. I was laying down for a little bit, then I got up to go pee maybe an hour later or something like that. I fell asleep and I woke up with having back pain. And I had heard one of my friends from work tell me that both of her boys, both of her pregnancies, she had back labor really, really bad. I didn't have back labor or back pain or whatever with Lacey at all when I was having contractions and stuff. So I was kind of like, wait, like, you know, did I just sleep wrong? Like, I'm not really sure. So I kind of waited a little bit, tried to go back to sleep. Then they got like worse and worse and worse. So I woke Matt up and I was like, I think I might be in labor. Like my back kind of hurts a little. You know, we weren't really sure. So we kind of waited and it just progressively got worse. Then it kind of started in the front too, but it was mostly in the back. It was crazy. By the time we realized that we needed to go to the hospital, I think it was like 2 a.m. give or take. So we called Matt's family to come over because Lacey was sleeping. We couldn't leave her home alone. So his sister and his mom came over, and right as I was coming, because I had gotten dressed and I went to grab our bag and everything while Matt was letting them in and was like talking to them and explaining like what they would need to do with Lacey when she woke up and whatnot. And I remember when I was coming out of the room, I had barely gotten right to his family when a contraction hit again. in my back, and it made me almost like fall over, and his mom had like just started to hug me, and her hands were like on my lower back, and I was like, oh my God, like I'm having a contraction. So I'm like holding on to her, trying not to fall over. And she said that she could feel like the tightening and stuff in my back. She was like, oh, that's a big one. And I was like, yeah, no shit. Like it was painful, you know? So she was like, yeah, you need to go, you need to go. Cause my contractions were like 2 minutes apart or something crazy. And they were like intense. So we left to the hospital, and I swear that was the longest drive of my life. It was 2 in the morning. There's not a whole lot of traffic out or anything, obviously. And Matt was like stopping at every red light and just driving like normal. And I'm like, can we go? Like, we need to get to the hospital. The contractions were bad. They were just on top of each other. Like, it went quick. So I don't remember what time we got to the hospital, but I'm trying to waddle my butt from the car up to the desk, contracting the whole way, trying to hold on to him. We couldn't find a wheelchair. Like, there wasn't one right there or something, I don't think, so I had to walk all the way. And so they're like, oh, can you sign in? And I'm literally, like I said, just contracting like right on top of another one. And I'm like, can he do it? Trying to hold on to like the counter. And like, you can clearly see I'm in pain, you know, and I'm like, I'm in labor. They were like, oh, can you just fill out this paperwork? And I was like, can he do it? And they were like, no, you're the mother, you have to do it. And I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to write like in between contractions. So stupid. They're like, well, how far along are you? How long, you know, how many minutes apart are the contractions and whatever? And I'm like, you guys, I'm going to have this baby like now. Can we get a move on? Like, let's go, you know? We got into a room finally. They went to check my cervix, and I was already, I think I was like 8 centimeters dilated or something already, like something crazy. Like, it went fast, you guys. It was nuts. So they were like, oh yeah, like you're about to have a baby, you know? But they called the guy to do the epidural, did that. I think that was around 3:15 or 3:30 in the morning, something like that, when I got the epidural. The doctor had checked me, or a nurse or whoever had checked me, and they said that my water had already broke, and that explains why my contractions were so crazy and back to back. So we're not sure when it broke. It might have broke when I was in the shower, or it might have broke when I went to the bathroom, and I just didn't notice because it just released with all the other, you know, water and liquid and stuff. So I'm not really sure. Okay, I had to change my battery, and I can't remember exactly like what part of the story I was in. I think I mentioned I was like 8 centimeters dilated already. My water had broke. We weren't sure when. I got the epidural. Oh, and then it was like, I don't know, I think I'd gotten to 10 centimeters maybe an hour or less later. So when I was at 10 centimeters, they were like, okay, it's time to push. Like, I was fully ready to go, like contracting. It was crazy. So they had me starting to push and whatnot, and I was pushing, and they kept saying that the baby didn't seem to like the position I was in. I think they had me on, like, laying on my right side, and it seemed that every time I was pushing, Connor's heart rate kept dropping every time that I pushed. So then they had me try on my back. Then they had me try on my left side. Then they brought me back to my right side. And I am 40 weeks pregnant, bursting with a baby inside of me. Do you know how hard it was to pick my big fat butt up? That also I had an epidural, so it was impossible for me to move. My husband was trying to help me, like, roll this way, roll that way. Like, they thought it was like easy just to get from one position to another. So after we were trying to push and push and push, and I think I pushed for like an hour or more, it felt like forever. So at one point, you know, they're kind of down there trying to see what's going on, because there was no progress in regards to Connor like moving or anything, even though I'd been pushing and pushing and pushing. And every time that I was pushing, no matter what position I was in, his heart rate would drop every single time. So after trying to push for like an hour or whatever it was, they decided that we needed to have a C-section, because they said that his umbilical cord was, like, from my understanding, was like laid like across the top of his head. So that was like blocking him from coming out, but because he was squishing it with his head and it was being like crushed, he couldn't get past it, and then it was squishing, you know, squishing it, not letting the oxygen and whatnot in or whatever. So I guess that was what was causing his heart rate to drop, because we were just pinning the umbilical cord against his head. So he couldn't get past it. It was dropping his heart rate. They were like, we can't do this. Like, the baby is getting too stressed and his heart rate isn't great. And so we're gonna have to have a C-section. So it was like an emergency C-section because he couldn't get out otherwise. My husband got all scrubbed up and everything. They wheeled us over, and I had already had the epidural anyway, so I was, you know, numb to begin with. So I'm pretty sure it was just the epidural that I had from what we can remember. I'm not entirely sure. But oh, also remember that we had started this. I only slept for maybe an hour or something between the time I took a shower, tried to go to sleep, and then I was contracting. So now it's like, I don't know, 5:30 in the morning or whatever. Like, I was exhausted going through all this and then trying to push for like an hour or an hour and a half. And I was really tired. I was struggling to stay awake, you guys, because I'm obviously laid down. I have that giant sheet thing in front of me, so I couldn't see anything. You know, Matt was right there, obviously holding my hand and watching the entire thing go down. And I remember kind of just feeling light tugs and pulls, but like no pain or anything. And I kept telling myself, like, I have to stay awake to see my baby, you know, but I can't feel anything. I'm numb. I was so tired, and I kept like falling asleep, and I'd fall asleep for just what felt like to me just barely a minute, and I'd be like, wait, like I need to be awake, you know, and I'd ask him, wait, is he here yet? Like, did I miss it? Because I kept trying to fall asleep because I was so exhausted. So at 5:58 in the morning, he was pulled from my stomach and joined to the world. So he was 7 pounds. He was 7 pounds, 15 ounces, 21.5 inches long. And I don't remember his head circumference, but his head was huge. It wasn't a cone shape or anything because, you know, he got pulled from my stomach. He was a pretty big baby, you know, so I'm glad that I didn't have him vaginally because he's pretty big. He's right at that 8-pound mark. Once he was taken out and I saw him and I was like, oh, it's so cute, you know, and all that stuff, and they're sectioning his mouth and all that, like, I wanted to be awake to still watch him, but I was like, okay, he's here, like, he's fine, he was crying, you know, he's safe. So then I kind of let myself kind of just relax and like fall asleep, you know. And I think I did fall asleep because the next thing that I remember, I woke up and we were in like a recovery room, and Connor was in the little plastic, what are they called? Not bassinet, but the little things that they get stuck in, the little plastic tub that they get stuck in next to you, and Matt was sleeping on the chair right next to me. So it's like, oh, okay, like my baby's here, Matt's here, you know, and I'm like, what time is it? And I don't remember what time it was. I was just like, okay, like, they're here, we're safe, you know, so I would fall asleep again. But then I would wake myself up worried about Connor, you know, like, wait, is Matt paying attention? Is he too asleep that he's not gonna notice if he cries? So I kept waking myself up like with worry and concern for Connor, you know, and with the C-section, like that was a new experience for me, obviously. So I would only sleep for maybe 30-minute intervals or something before I'd wake myself up like freaking out for no reason, you know. So it was a little rough. Then we had some family come and, you know, see us and all that stuff. And I think we stayed in the hospital for 3 days or maybe 4 days, I don't remember. And let me tell you right now, the healing from a C-section, at least mine, was rough. So I had Lacey, who was almost 2 years old. Her birthday was December 20th. Connor was born November 28th. So she was almost 2 years old. So still needed a lot of help with everything in life. Wasn't potty trained yet either. Then I've got a newborn, and I was trying to breastfeed, but he would not latch. Like, even with the nipple shield that I tried, he would not latch, and it was really difficult for me. So I started to pump, and then I was like supplementing with formula because, you know, until like my milk came in and stuff, because it just, I don't know, we could not get it to work. And I didn't breastfeed with Lacey either because she'd been in the NICU for so long, and she couldn't even do it anyway because of all her tubes and her breathing, her oxygen and everything. So I'd never breastfed before, and it just was not working. And I really feel like they didn't have a great lactation consultant or something, because I kind of talked to one lady in the hospital, but she wasn't very helpful, and she only saw me like once and kind of pushed to use formula instead and just use a bottle or whatever. So that's what we did. So he was like half breastfed, you know, through me pumping, and then half like formula fed. So I was trying to pump and then take care of him, take care of Lacey. and Matt had to go back to work. So his mom and his sister, because they still obviously lived here at the time, they would come over and help and like do dishes or entertain Lacey or, you know, whatever, and help me, because it was really difficult for me to get up and move around. You know, you're not supposed to lift anything heavier than your baby. You're not supposed to, you know, bend and do anything, you know. So it was really, really difficult, and I'm not really one of those people that will just like sit back and let someone else that doesn't live in my house like clean for me and do my laundry and all that stuff. Like that's something that I should be doing. So I kind of struggled with that a little bit, so I didn't take as much help as I should have taken. I don't remember how many weeks it had been since the C-section had happened, but I was trying to get up and out of bed while I tried to roll on my side and then push up, so I wasn't just sitting straight up to make the incision like reopen. But that did end up happening, which was so painful. I think it was on my left side. I had just not even half of an inch. It was just really small, but it reopened. They had glued me shut. I didn't get sewn up or stitches or anything. I got glued together, so a little part on the corner reopened, and it was so painful. And I think we'd called the doctor and talked about it. I don't remember if I went in to see anybody or not, but I'm pretty sure it just like healed up on its own. Like I had to be more careful because obviously I was overdoing it. Like I was doing laundry, I was doing dishes. You know, I did pick up Lacey a few times because I had to, even though I wasn't supposed to. But I mean, what can I do if I'm home alone with a newborn and a 2-year-old? You know what I mean? Like I had to get stuff done. I had to feed her, make food, pump, you know, all the things by myself. It was really hard. I was taking it a lot easier and just kind of let the house and everything go because I didn't want it to open further or give me any issues. I just wanted to heal and be done with it so I could, you know, be an active mom for my 2 tiny children, you know what I mean? So, but eventually, you know, I did heal and everything, but even trying to like sneeze, laughter was really difficult. It just, you know, it shakes your belly. It's right under your belly, you know, it was really painful. And I also, for whatever reason, was constantly like choking on water all the time. Of course, when I'm trying to heal and I'm trying not to have my stomach and my whole body like shake and convulge, or convulse or whatever. It was just happening all the freaking time, and it was so painful. It's honestly one of the most painful things that I have ever experienced in my life, was trying to heal from that C-section. That's basically, I think, most of the story of him being born and everything. And he's totally fine and healthy now. Like, even though his oxygen, you know, had been cut off and whatnot, like he came out totally fine. No issues of any kind or anything like that, so that was really good. So yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed that story. It's a lot shorter than the other ones. I figured I would give you less dramatic, less crazy, shorter video to enjoy, which I hope you did enjoy. So make sure to give it a thumbs up down below if you did. Also subscribe if you are new, and you can also head over to Instagram or Facebook to follow me there as well. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.